Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Zelda Universe Podcast. We are grateful for you to join us today as we go over the many joys and experiences that we have had in the land of Hyrule and beyond. My name is Connor Schultz. It is a pleasure to be with you once again. And joining me today, we have someone here all too soon and someone who hasn't been here in quite a hot minute. Jason, great to have you again.
Thanks for having me.
And making his, shall it be a triumphal return, Joshua? No. Okay, we'll make it a groggy, unenthusiastic meandering.
Cool. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Great. Well, as of the recording of this podcast, we are 2 weeks away. And so by the posting of this podcast, we should likely be within a week of the official 40th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda, as it was first brought out to the world in Japan. Well, I guess not to the world. It was just in Japan in February 21st, 1986. I was still a year and a half off.
I was a little more, probably.
Okay. You know when your birth date is, so...
Yeah, I was probably around 4, maybe?
We're all too old to remember our ages now.
Stop counting after 30.
This is what happens when you get old. Yes, you have 3 old people here to talk about Zelda stuff, which I guess is appropriate for a anniversary as large as the number 40. I don't think Sesame Street ever got us to that high a number.
Nope.
We shall start today looking back into the past as we take a look at Zelda Study, the series where we examine the history of The Legend of Zelda to bring you some fascinating trivia exploring each game's development, curiosities, and more within the rich lore of the franchise. And today we are going to look not quite to the origins of the franchise, but just a little bit after that, as we take a look at the adventure of Link. We got into a little bit of a conversation before we could even get the podcast going, because it turns out all 3 of us have not only completed the adventure of Link, we're all pretty big fans of the game.
Yes, sir.
One of the best.
That is not a common take to have. It's actually fairly low on my overall rankings, and I'm trying to remember the exact reasons why. I'd have to pull it up. I think part of it is, well, is it? It might be that difficulty curve.
That difficulty curve was rough.
Anybody who has completed this game, I don't care how you did it, congratulations.
Yes, very much so.
Anytime I look at any, most difficult games, Adventure of Link is almost inevitably on that list. What do you think works when it comes to strategies to survive this onslaught?
Practice. Not giving up. That's it.
Yeah.
There's really not that many different enemies or that many there's not that many buttons or skills to master. It's just practice, grinding a little bit at the beginning. Once you get some sword skills and some magic, get some upgrades, the second half of the game actually feels easier than the first half.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You die so fast at the beginning that people give up before you even finish the first dungeon.
I learned to run away.
If you run away, you don't get experience points.
Yeah, but there are other things that I know I can kill. So, for example, the Tektites. Random wandering enemy that you have to cast fire for in order to do any damage to them.
Are excellent for grinding. Absolutely excellent for grinding.
That is a precious commodity. I'm not spending my time with those things.
What you do is you stand outside a town and you fight them, and then when you run low on magic, you run in and you heal. They actually also drop magic jars pretty consistently when you defeat them.
Yeah.
Fun fact that is not what we're talking about in the article, but the item drops in Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 are not random. They're not random.
Yep, unfortunately not.
So you can learn which things are dropped from which enemies, how often they're going to drop from each enemy.
Yep.
Gosh, that's so much work.
It's actually fighting Tektites is one of my favorite ways to grind after you go across the sea.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get those last few levels if you have to.
Yeah.
So, but yes, overworld enemies are generally not very. There's not much point in fighting them.
Yeah.
It's better to skip those and fight the ones in the dungeons.
I'd say the other one that I had the worst time with is in the dungeons. In fact, the last dungeon, I thought the Iron Knuckles were hard enough. Then you got the bird version.
Yeah, the Foca.
The Foca.
Yeah, don't fight those. There's no point. The game is over at that point. You should already be maximum level. Just those you can just run away from.
I run away from... The only ones I don't run away from are the ones where I can be high enough that they can't jump up to me, but I can squat down and stab them.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other strategy is that when they jump over you, you do an upstab and get them from below.
Ah, brilliant. I never thought of that.
Most enemies have like a little pattern to them. Like even the Iron Knuckles, like for example, the orange ones, you could just literally just repeat it like short hop, jump, slash, and right in the face every time. And you know, most of the time they'll try to hit you where you're at. So if you just watch where the knife is coming, you know, you can follow it pretty easily.
So when it comes to the difficulty curve, Joshua, you said that the first half you think is harder than the second?
Yeah, because when you don't have the downstab or the upstab, but especially the downstab, getting anywhere near an enemy is just dangerous. Once you can jump over an enemy and just stab them in the head, like a lot of the danger goes away. And Death Mountain, which isn't even a dungeon, is arguably one of the hardest parts or the hardest part of the entire game. And it's at the beginning. And so if you can get through Death Mountain, there is nothing else in the game that you are incapable of getting through. It's just a matter of not giving up before you reach that point.
So what if I told you that it could be easier? Or in fact, it was easier.
Yep.
Because Aaron Talon takes this article to look at the differences between the international/American version and the original Japanese version of The Adventure of Link. And it turns out, in a odd twist of fate logic, it bucks the normal trend. Usually the international versions are easier, at least when it comes to the NES games. But in this time, Adventure of Link is harder in the English version. Primarily because that experience gap is a lot harder to overcome.
Yes, that's right. Because in the Japanese version, you lost all of your experience and all of your levels every time you booted the game back up. So in order for the game to be like reasonably finishable, you had to make it easier to level up. So they made it harder to level up in the US version, but you get to keep your levels forever. Which also explains, I don't think the article talks about this, but it explains why they let you store points, which I would say most players who aren't like speedrunning probably don't do. But the way leveling in Zelda 2 works is that every time you reach a certain threshold, say 200 experience points, you are given a level up screen where you can choose to increase your health, your defense, or your attack power. And I guess it's your defense, your attack power, or your magic consumption. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Or you can choose to not put any points into anything and store those and then wait until you hit the next threshold, which might be 400 experience, and then look at it again, and maybe you can afford something more expensive. Most players are desperate and just take whatever's they can afford when the screen pops up, because if you get a game over, you lose all of your unspent points, so it's too dangerous to get rid of it. In the Japanese version, where that wasn't a thing, you would lose all your points when you quit the game. It made more sense to focus, and you could even like build Link a different way every time you played. If you're in a dungeon and you really need that extra defense or you need that extra magic, you could specifically level from 0 and only increase your magic all the way to finish that dungeon where you really needed reflect in every room, right? Where we lost that in the US version because it just felt weird of why would you ever not spend the points unless you were a speedrunner, and where I believe the strategy is just get attack power as fast as possible because if you're good enough to speedrun it, you're not getting hit anyway.
Even without speed running, I level up my attack at least a few levels first.
Yeah, it's just dangerous to do that, right? Because attack is the most expensive one, I'm pretty sure, on all levels.
Yeah, but everything's killing you super fast anyway, so what's the point?
Yeah. So yeah, I think the leveling system was actually designed for how the Japanese game worked, where you would almost like if you say you're doing a new run in Elden Ring or something, where you're going to level your character a little different every time, put the points into different skills. A lot of RPGs do that nowadays, and Zelda 2 has kind of a very early version of something like that, but because all of the levels are permanent, you don't really see that in the US version. It's a little more like a roguelite in Japan, if you want. Maybe that's a better example, where every time you would build your character a little different.
That does sound more accurate too.
Huh.
We found out Zelda was the first of a roguelikes as well. That's awesome.
Zelda 2 is kind of like a roguelite. It's kind of like a Metroidvania. It's kind of an RPG.
I love it even more now.
It has a lot of pieces of things we would see later. Because when you think about it, the dungeons are very similar to a Metroid area. Yeah. The way it's all interconnected. But then you got the overworld that's more like an old school RPG, and then you've got this experience system in Japan, at least, that's more like playing Hades.
Yeah, Hades is fun.
They've spent so much time on the NES just experimenting. What could we do with this kind of game? What could we do with this kind of game?
I mean, that's what the technology leap at the time did for you. Yeah. And back then we didn't have these decades of norms for how game development was supposed to work. So, you didn't have a blueprint of, well, Ocarina of Time did it this way and proved that this is how targeting and this is how cameras and this is how everything should work. They didn't have anything. They just had games to make, and you just
imagine you stab things. But wait, stab up.
I know, right?
But imagine being the game developer who got to put that in a video game for the first time.
True.
When it was a novel idea to stab in more than one direction.
And some of those novel ideas, I wish they had kind of kept. One of the other changes that they had, the Japanese version had audio cues for when you were approaching or even fighting a boss enemy. Just like in the original Zelda, if you were in the room next to where the boss was, you would hear roaring. And I think that's something they should bring back. It builds up the intimidation factor of, oh, something's over there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
And I think like the scorpions and something else, you could kill them with the sword in the Japanese version, but American, you had to do the fire spell or whatever. So I know little stuff like that was different.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of little differences, right? The music is different.
Yeah,
not like different songs, and you can probably see this if you use the Nintendo Music app. It's probably on there at this point. But Zelda 2 and Zelda 1 were both Famicom Disk System games. They were not on cartridges. I'm not actually sure that Zelda 2 was ever on a Famicom cartridge. Zelda 1 did get put on a cartridge eventually, but they were originally basically on floppy disks.
Do we have to explain to half the audience what a floppy disk is? You know that little save icon? That used to be a physical thing.
I could have brought them out, but I have copies on the discs. But they're little yellow square discs. but it has a different sound chip basically. So the music sounds different, and the music actually can have like additional layers. I don't know all the right terms for all these things, but the music is a little more complex. Same with some of the animations, things that are like they don't affect the gameplay, but the graphics are actually kind of better.
You didn't like the water moved?
Yeah, the water in the overworld is animated on the Famicom Disk System version. And yeah, I'm talking about a primitive animation where you have like a little wave that goes up and down, like right. It's not real sophisticated, but in the US version it's just a blue square.
That's funny.
It's a lot of blocks.
Yeah.
Very blocky. And apparently that animation carried over as well to the game over screen. Apparently the epilepsy induction was not strong enough in the American version. They really wanted to fry your eyeballs when you got a game over in the Japanese version.
That's funny.
Epilepsy aside, I think that is the best game over screen.
Honestly, just having Ganon laughing at you is hilarious. Like, you lose, and then he's just like, you're like, wow, I hate you. I know what motivated me to get back in there. I'm going to get you.
Nothing builds motivation like spite.
Game over. You're the original jerk.
I mean, but it actually felt like something really horrible happened. It's actually in the gameplay where one of the major reasons you have all of these enemies trying to kill you is because they're the remnants of Ganon's forces, and they believe, which apparently is true, if the blood of the hero is sprinkled on Ganon's ashes, he gets revived.
Yep. It's one of those fun story things in both Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. The enemies in the overworld are Ganon's minions. The enemies in the dungeons are actually guardians of the dungeons. You know, Zelda put the Triforce in those dungeons. Ganon didn't do that.
No.
And in Zelda 2, it's the same thing, that the might have been the prince in that backstory put the pieces in the dungeons so that only the true hero could get you had to take the crystals to the keys or whatever, right? Yeah. And only the true person could get the Triforce of Courage.
Yeah, I don't think the prince did it because the prince had been searching for the Triforce of Courage the whole way, but we're getting nitpicky on the lore stuff that we don't need to worry about.
But yeah, so like the whole thing was that those are guardians put there intentionally to keep the bad people out.
Yeah.
They need a better enemy detection system.
That's funny.
Update your security, ancient temples.
It was a trial. In Zelda 2, it's a trial for the person that would come to claim the Triforce of Courage. So you have to show your courage to overcome it.
Very true. Well, thank you, Aaron Talon, for opening up for us this volume from Zelda Study. And we're going to move on to the Bomber's Notebook, the series where we take a special look at the various and unique characters found in the Legend of Zelda series. And we're actually going to... It's practically spin-off from The Adventure of Link. Those who have not played it probably, at the very least, know one of the things that have lasted the longest from The Adventure of Link as far as the series is concerned is your final opponent, where you come to claim the Triforce of Courage, and this random wizard dude that you've never seen before at all.
He's just an old man in a cave.
Apparently, and he's like, hey, you know what? It's dangerous to go alone, but it's more dangerous to have your shadow fighting you.
Yes.
And thus we have the birth of Shadow or Dark Link.
I'm gonna nitpick one thing.
Okay.
And some people listening will have heard me on other shows and such nitpicking the same thing. Shadow Link and Dark Link are not the same thing. And they also don't appear in Zelda 2. Nope. You said it correctly the first time. The boss of Zelda 2 is Link's shadow.
Yeah.
It's a Peter Pan reference. It's literally his shadow. Where Dark Link and Shadow Link are alternative beings brought about by different things. But everybody tends to just call them all Dark Link.
Yeah.
Now I'm nitpicking the lore, right?
Hey, that's perfectly fine.
I mean, it's accurate. It's not wrong. It's hella...
I am pedantic enough to appreciate that kind of stuff, and it's great.
Yeah.
Well, for today in the Bomber's Notebook, we are going to be looking specifically at the Dark Link, and this one has its origins in Hyrule Warriors,
Woohoo!
which in itself is a spin-off of sorts, and the best example of fan fiction and fan service I could possibly ask for. This one being actually probably one of the best examples of what you can do with a doppelganger kind of situation. I like that this Dark Link has its roots not just in, Link is great, we're going to make an evil Link, but it's made from Link.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Dark Link in Hyrule Warriors is, I would say, the most fully realized version of this in any Zelda game, since the story is that Link kind of just gets full of himself and Sia takes advantage of that, right?
Yeah.
And brings about these Dark Links from his negative emotions, where the other Dark Link that everyone's familiar with is in the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time, and we don't really have a story for that one. It's just a copy. It's just a copy of Link that presumably Ganon made.
It's a reflection that decided to just, walk up and say hello.
And reflection's a good word too for Shadow Link in Four Swords Adventures, who literally comes from a mirror. And that, but this is actually the most fully realized Dark Link in Hyrule Warriors, since it actually has like a real origin and a reason it exists, and like a good reason you have to destroy it, and why they keep coming back, right?
I think I like the Water Temple one for the fact that if you notice, when that one comes, he's just kind of there. If you don't attack him for a while, he doesn't attack. The more you give him, the more you attack, the more you are aggressive with him in the beginning, the more he retaliates in the later end. Like when he fully, like, he's like kind of like see-through, and then he becomes like a fully solid black. So like if you just kind of lightly go at him, then when you fight him, he's kind of not as fierce. But if you give him everything in those, beginning moments, then he's like jumping on your sword, backflipping over everything, blocking everything, teleporting all over the place. So like I always thought that was like really cool that they did that in Ocarina, that like he's not just, as soon as you see him, he's just going at you. He's kind of like, what are you doing? What are you gonna do? And I thought that was pretty neat that they put that in there like that.
I think the only reason that the Hyrule Warriors Dark Link can work with that origin as well as it does is because this is the only time where Link is not just your player self-insert.
Yeah.
Although we see Link having different reactions in various games like Wind Waker and Skyward Sword, this is the only time where Link is just Link. And Link is doing his thing for his reactions, and the explanation in the beginning scenario stuff gives you that impression of, oh yeah, no, this is Link. Link is doing this. He's got the Master Sword. He's feeling pretty full of himself.
Right.
Yeah.
And it works with Hyrule Warriors because Link, like you kind of said, like, I don't really like treating Link as a self-insert. I think it's should have been ended a long time ago. But in Hyrule Warriors, it's just not there, right? You've got 40 different characters to play as. You can take a bunch of them into the stage with you. This, like that first stage, it's been a while since I played it, but that stage where Sia first summons them, there's probably 3 or 4 characters you play as and swap between, right?
Yeah.
And then if you go replay the stage, you can just bring whoever you want.
Yeah.
And so the way Hyrule Warriors works, there is no self-insert at all, because you might be fighting Dark Link playing as Princess Ruto, and it just it just works different that they give Link more agency to just be his own character and not have to worry about the supposed need for you to have a player character.
As much as I personally appreciate the self-insert aspects of Link,
Same.
it is interesting to think about Link as their own character, and particularly as we've talked about things in regards to the movie and how Link is presented in different iterations, self-insert regardless. That idea of characterization what does this Link do with this situation that he is put in? And it makes me think of this iteration of Link as being just the fact that he can display the kinds of arrogance and ego that Sia can draw from to create this doppelganger. That means, in my mind, that Link is kind of that hotshot rookie dude who just has a whole bunch of natural skill and it kind of goes to his head, even though we don't get to see it.
Yeah. I mean, the also thing I like is if you notice, like, even in the beginning of that Hyrule Warriors, he's trying to prove himself as well. Like, he's in there in the courtyard and there's all those, soldiers, and then Zelda comes in and looks, and it's like they have that moment, and it's almost like she sees him, acknowledges him, but she has something else to do it. So it's kind of like, if you can infer it, like he's looking like, okay, I have to prove this. I have something to prove. You know what I mean? Like, I have to prove I'm the strongest, or I can show her I can save Hyrule. So it's like all those emotions mixed with what you were saying. It's like it comes to a head, and then he gets the Master Sword, and then he's winning battles, and he's cocky, and then it finally brings that out. So like, C is able to manipulate it later and bring out the Dark Links, which I really love that story. It's one of my favorites. So I feel like they did a good job. It was pretty neat to see.
Hyrule Warriors in general just has a really kind of cool crossover story
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't have to follow any of the usual Zelda rules.
Exactly.
It just kind of gets to be crazy, and I don't really want the main series to be that way, but it's cool that we get to do it sometimes.
Yeah, we get to have fun. Like, we have some, branching out, from our normal Zelda stories. I loved it for that.
It's fan service, and there's nothing wrong with fan service as long as it's not the basis for whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But for an additional outing of, it would be fun. And that's what it is. It's fun.
Yeah.
Do you still think it's fun after the amount of time you've played the game?
Yes.
I still think it's of the 3 Hyrule Warriors, I still think it's my favorite.
Oh, I'm also like Connor. I've had all 3 versions of the first Hyrule Warriors, the Wii, the 3DS, and then again on the Switch.
Yeah.
So
No, I've played all 3.
Just like that, yeah.
I just haven't played them for 300 hours to 100% them or whatever.
Yeah.
That's because I'm insane, and it took me 13 months, and yes, that was a thing.
And I'm also insane like Connor, even though I'm not fully done with the 100% on the Switch version.
Well, then you're not as insane as me because you haven't done it yet.
But I'm close. There's not much
Once
left,
you're there, then you can be as insane as me.
But I've done all the other 2, so I'm right behind you.
I did. I played through it the Wii U version in particular several times for ZU projects. Anybody who watches the old dubs on the YouTube channel, like that was me playing.
Nice.
Mostly
okay, cool.
In the early videos, like the first ones we did, I was playing. So I haven't played it in quite a while, actually. But it was because I got a bit tired after playing it so much for various ZU projects.
That is a good reason. That's a very good reason.
The quality of life stuff they gave us for the Switch version, being able to use more than one character, being able to buy the items on the map, like when we had to do that on the Wii U, it was a lot. And it was
quality of life made the Switch version, despite the fact that there's still more. It makes it more bearable as well. Yeah, the original Hyrule Warriors is my favorite. It is the most fun.
Same.
The Age of Imprisonment, the one that just recently came out, that is the most cohesive and most technically impressive, and everything just flows really, really well. I think as far as story goes, Age of Calamity is the most emotionally resonant.
I just need a little FPS boost for the Switch too. I know it'd be solid 30. If they can push to 60, I think I will definitely dive back to that game because it didn't get as much as it should have gotten as far as like how the other 2 are or being looked after, and it was a really great game.
Yeah, I generally think that the Hyrule Warriors games have just gotten better as they've made them. But I'm mostly like, I don't really like Age of Calamity's story. Age of Imprisonment story I think is great. And Hyrule Warriors, the original, the story is just fun and crazy. But I don't really play games for that. Like I'm mostly thinking I focus on the moment to moment just gameplay and how the characters work, and I think they've just gotten better at designing the Zelda characters as they go. So I think that all the characters feel better to play in Age of Imprisonment than in any of the other games. Ignoring the frame rate entirely, I'm just talking about like the skill sets of them.
Yeah. Frame rate I think is a little overemphasized, but that's
I like the frame rate doesn't matter to me in these games. It's just such a big giant mess on the screen anyway. It's like I'm not really paying attention to the frame rate. But
yeah, like I don't need it to be crazy, but like Age of Calamity suffered when it would drop below like 20 in certain instances, so it got real choppy looking. But other than that, yeah, I enjoyed it.
But yes, I think they've generally gotten better at them as they go. The only thing that I still think Hyrule Warriors, the original, has like a huge advantage over the others on is just that they were able to pull from the whole series of characters. And so because the others are so deeply tied to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they had to just stick with characters that fit in those worlds. I don't know that they really needed to do that, but they did. Like my opinion is, why not throw Midna in there for the DLC? Just do it for fun. But they didn't do that, and so you kind of just end up with a bunch of random nobodies to play as.
Unfortunately, yes, and oh my gosh, I wish we had more time with them because they were really, really fun, despite the fact that they were nobodies that we will never ever see again.
So, because you could totally just take those movesets and give them to, Daronia instead, or whoever, and we didn't do that. So, but that's a whole nother topic on Hyrule Warriors. But yeah, I do think that the games keep getting better, and no matter what the developers keep saying about how Hyrule Warriors is not an ongoing series, I think they have proved otherwise, and that now there's a little bit of an expectation that we're going to see them at least semi-regularly.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird too that they would say that because, I mean, like I said, we've got 3 successful Hyrule Warriors games, and they're fun. Like I don't see why it has to be something that shouldn't be ongoing, or we don't have another rendition of.
We would need to look into the actual sales to say how popular they really are.
Age of Calamity is the best-selling Musou game ever made.
Yeah, I'm
well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm like it.
I didn't know. Okay, I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff, so that's good information. It sounds to me more like they're keeping their options open so as to not create a sense of expectation.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be like, "Where's the next one? Where's the next one?"
Yeah. If the next Zelda game doesn't have like a cool backstory or a cool alternate thing that fits into this kind of idea, then they don't want to feel obligated. Like they have to just make up a Warriors game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would feel like that's a good placement holder because if you think about it, like for example, Mario, he has all his games, and then when he's not in the main stuff, a ton of spin-off things, the Paper Marios, the Mario and Luigi saga. Like, I don't see why Zelda should have, like, why can't we just have Hyrule Warriors stuff? It's not like we really have anything else,
At this point, Mario, I feel like, is better known for all of the non-platforming games.
Exactly.
Because they're like, we don't get the platforming games all that often.
Jeez. No, that's funny.
Yeah, Dark Link is cool.
Yeah, Dark Link is cool.
I think it's amazing.
And thank you so much, Galen Truitt, for opening this page of the Bomber's Notebook. And let us move over to Yuga's Art Gallery, the series in which we highlight our favorite artwork from the Legend of Zelda community. And this time around, artist Betty Kwong has shown us a humorous little incident from the setting of Link Between Worlds, as well as a fan favorite character along with our main one. When the two of you were playing Link Between Worlds, how peeved were you when you found out that Ravio had literally just taken over your house?
I was not.
I wasn't mad. I laughed so much. It's just the most Zelda Nintendo-ish thing to do, to just have this, or not even, definitely Zelda. Just have this one character just make its, way into Link's like adventure or path. Like, okay, we're gonna do this, and it's like, who are you?
Well, it's like that. Like in hindsight, the fun part is that it's actually a hint to his true identity, right?
Yeah.
which is why they did it. But no, I don't think Ravio ever did anything that made me mad, except perhaps in replays, how like he goes on a bit too long with tutorial stuff for me. I'd rather him just kind of shut up and let me buy the thing. So, and how you have to like go to the dungeon, see the icon on the wall, and then go back and buy the items. Like, just let me go to the store now. Did he really set up shop in that 30 seconds it took me to run to the dungeon and then run back? Like,
yes, he did.
Just
you know what was also funny too? It was because if he's like Link's alternate, it was wild because he had so much more personality, whereas like Link has usually none that we really see too much of. So it kind of was like, it almost throws you off. It's like, who really is this person? And you find out who he is, and it's like, wow, okay, so this is what he would be like in that dimension. And I don't know, I kind of like that about it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, did you guess before the reveal?
No,
not really, because that's what I'm saying. Because he was such a whole character. It's like, and then like when you think about, okay, maybe this is, but it's like in the beginning, you're just like, who is this?
Admittedly, I was not thinking about it real hard.
Yeah,
I reviewed the game for ZU, and I was kind of in a hurry to make sure I finished the game. And so I was not trying to figure out all the secrets ahead of time and write down my theories and all that. I do that now. I did that with Tears of the Kingdom. I had a whole journal, and I was like writing down theories about stuff the whole time. But back then I was not worried about that. But yeah, so, like what you mentioned about Ravio's identity kind of goes back to what I was talking about Link being the self-insert, and how I feel like the series has outgrown that. Not because having a self-insert is a bad idea in a video game, right? There's lots of games where you create your own player character, and then some games then let you like change the character stats or how they play or whatever, right? Like, it's an RPG thing to build your own character, but the Zelda developers are not leaning into that at all. Right? They've actually leaned the other way, and then they keep giving Link a personality, right? They keep saying, well, now Link loves to eat, and he doesn't talk because he's quiet and stoic, and he's focused, and or he fell into the silent realm and lost his voice. Like, they come up with reasons to justify.
I loved that reason.
Yes, but they come up with reasons to justify him remaining a kind of self-insert while also giving him like half of a D&D character sheet completed.
That's okay. Nobody fills out their D&D sheet anymore.
Yeah, but so like they fill out half of his personality and then say we can't touch that part because that's the player insert part. And I feel like they need to kind of choose a lane here. That's my opinion, but Ravio kind of continues to show that, where they gave him this whole personality that does feel like it's kind of the opposite. Well, not kind of, it is the opposite of Link, because there is sort of a, Link is the blacksmith's apprentice. He's kind of hardworking, but also lazy. And Ravio is now like this weird, I guess I'll just take this guy's house and set up a shop. But the big one that gets thrown around is that Link has courage and Ravio doesn't. Right? That Ravio is a coward who ran away. And the best he can do is help the really courageous guy to fix the problem. So we're spoiling this entire game. Not that there's any way to play it now.
How dare you spoil a game that's been out for, what, at least 10 years? No, more than that.
13
like 15
years.
Yeah.
13 years, yeah. Almost, I guess almost 13, yeah.
I think like the only time I really thought about it also was the fact that he's wearing that little bunny like head mask thing.
Yes.
And it's kind of like a throwback to when Link goes into the Dark World and Link to the Past and he turns into it. So it's like I kind of thought it was neat how they did that, the little throwbacks and the little Easter eggs and stuff. And I kind of like that story a lot.
Because that should be another hint, right?
It
should be another hint for everybody, and I didn't pick up on it at all. I'm just like, is that Nabbit?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's purple.
Like they got a Nabbit, yeah. But I mean, it is weird that they don't, like you said, they fleshed his personality out, Link's personality out the way that they do.
So speaking of the opposites that Link and Ravio have with each other, looking at this piece of artwork, two things that I noticed. First off, to just kind of add in more of the fact that Ravio took over Link's house without his permission. If you look at the sign, It has Ravio's name on there first, and it doesn't even have Link's full name.
Yeah, he's covered up the name.
It's Ravio-Li.
And then Little Bunny. Yeah.
Little Bunny. Secondly, Link is walking home, and he sees not only Ravio, but apparently he has a full-on flock of cuckoos.
Yeah, cuckoos just sitting up there.
Well, it's like the article here talks about how like this is an idea of like what's Ravio up to while Link is away, and what other ventures might he have tried, and I guess raising cuckoos is the implication here. Why Ravio chose to raise them on the roof is another question.
How did he get up there?
No, it's not that hard to get up to places.
Also, too, what's the name of the little dude that he accompanies Ravio? Is that like his little version of Navi?
Kind of.
I think that's the idea. It's named Shiro. I had to look this up.
That's right. Yeah.
Because I didn't remember.
I knew it was something. I just can't remember. But like, I also thought about that too. I was like,
I was about to look it up. So yes.
Yeah, it's Shiro, and Zelda Wiki just says it is an intelligent bird-like creature.
Yeah, I always thought that was like his version of a fairy. So I was like, oh, is this like his Navi or whatever? You know what I mean?
No, it's his debt collection agency. He's the muscle.
Oh no.
That's what Navi is, right?
Navi. Oh no.
But yeah, I do like this art. I'm kind of looking at the art more. I love how Link is drawn. Like almost like the most disappointing part of this piece is just that I didn't get to see this artist's rendition of Link's face. But the detail put into it, where like Ravio's bracelet's included, and like the Master Sword's already here. So like what? And yeah, like I love how Link is drawn in the piece. And the little cuckoos are very cute, but Ravio is totally dead. There is no way those cuckoos are gonna let Ravio be alive at the end of this. Ravio is quite clumsy. He's going to fall on a cuckoo, and they're going to attack him.
Yeah.
I was looking at Link. The thing that I noticed was the two little marks that are by his head. They are designed in the usual kind of cartoon way, where it's like a kind of a gas, like what the?
Yeah, he's like, what is this?
Obvious, what the heck is going on up there? But the fact that they're blue, which they're blue because he's sitting behind a white background with the clouds there, but it also kind of made me think of anime sweat drops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh no, all my worst fears in one spot.
Link is like, I'm going to have to clean this up later.
I have to clean this up. Not to mention, it's a flock of cuckoos, which means I'm in danger.
Yep.
Yeah, one of these days I'll have to explain why the people of Hyrule keep these dangerous monsters around.
Jeez.
I mean, look, you can only kill, but so many monsters, and why kill them when you can befriend them? They can't kill me if they don't want to kill me.
That's another good thing about the Hyrule Warriors games, especially the first one. You get to actually see the true terrifying nature of most cuckoos in some of those battles.
And then you get to be one.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this piece is very cute. I like it a lot. Cuckoos
It's
aside.
very fun. Thank you so much, Betty Kwong, for showing off your wonderful composition. And thank you to Ellie Appleby for curating this wing of Yuga's art gallery.
Thanks, Ellie.
And so at last we come to the feature of the month. And
Yay.
Josh, the reason why we have dragged you out of bed. I will not apologize.
That's all right. I was just resting to be prepared for this. This is actually this is the first podcast I've done at all this year. I haven't been on a podcast in quite a while for ZU or anyone else.
Awesome.
Just kind of an accident. Usually I'm on a show, once a quarter or so for someone, but I just haven't been on any lately.
Man,
Well, welcome back.
I want to do more of those. This is fun. I love doing this. Anyway, so last month we started the podcast by talking about the 40th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda as a whole, what we expected Nintendo might do in terms of special announcements and all these things. We determined that Nintendo really doesn't do much for Zelda anniversaries, which is really sad. And of course, we also talked about what could be coming for the series, which we really didn't get all that far. But Josh, you took an entire article to discuss what you would like to see for the next headline Zelda title. First off, congrats on doing on what I at least wasn't able to do.
It only took, so yes, I put this together, but I've been brainstorming these things for over a year. I wrote this in December and we didn't publish it till January. But I started writing notes for this maybe in 2024
Nice.
and told Jeff, our features director, that I was working on something. I actually started with only one of these ideas. I was going to write an entire article just detailing my favorite of these ideas, which I'm sure we'll talk about probably the most. But yeah, I ended up kind of settling on just keeping a little simpler and not going too crazy with it. Because as I say at the beginning of the article, I could kind of just talk about what do we do with the future of Zelda forever? And I narrowed it down to 3 things.
Smart of you.
And kept it kind of broad without getting too much in the weeds.
Yeah, you specifically say that you try to look at a big picture look for these objects. I'm curious, was this mostly a response to the Breath of the Wild era? This is where we are at? Or is this more of a, here's what the whole series has done, let's do such and such?
So it is looking at what the whole series has done, but also with an understanding that the developers have made it pretty clear that we're not moving away from as they call it, the open air Zelda design in the near future, right? The the fact of the matter is, even if folks like us have been Zelda fans basically our whole lives, I have played every Zelda game in sequence since they were released, starting with A Link to the Past, right? A Link to the Past was one of my first video games, and then I played Link's Awakening and Ocarina of Time, and starting with Majora's Mask, I had all of them on launch day. I've always played them immediately in order. Most people have not done that. Breath of the Wild has sold 30 million copies, and Tears of the Kingdom, I believe, is at over 20 million now. No other Zelda game comes even close. Twilight Princess, I believe, is next at 13 million or something. And that's because it was a Wii launch title. Most Zelda games are just not that well known, that broadly played. And so what we have now, at least one entire generation, plus older gamers who now associate Zelda with the Wild era, if we call it that. And we're kind of just going to have to accept that we're still going to get a thing like Echoes of Wisdom here and there. We're going to get the side games. We'll get Hyrule Warriors. But the big flagship Zelda titles are probably going to look like Breath of the Wild from a broad perspective for the foreseeable future. One of these days, everyone will get bored of that, just like we did with the other Zelda formulas, if we call them that, and we'll have to move on to something else. But right now, there's only been 2 of them. People are not tired of the idea of let's explore a giant world, and they keep coming up with, for me, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are very, very different, right? I play both of them still, and I play them both very differently. In Breath of the Wild, I tend to be on foot, and in Tears of the Kingdom, I tend to take whatever thing I can find and build a stupid plane out of it. I can't walk across a bridge normally. If there's a plank of wood nearby, I have to make a car.
Man, maybe I should do that more.
So it's the games are just very different, and so I don't doubt that whatever game we see next will probably be a giant world, but have a bunch of new toys to play with that are nothing like what we got before. But I don't really get into that in the article. I'm looking at very different things because you could spend all day talking about weapon durability, or why do we have to upgrade armor and spend money for it? Why did the dungeons not feel like old dungeons still? Where are the dungeon items? You could just pick out all these little things from older Zelda games that people are not 100% satisfied with in Breath of the Wild and write 100 pages about it, or spend 4 hours on this podcast talking about it, right? Well, we could do a whole episode or a year's worth of episodes picking out a topic every time. So I did not do any of that. I'm thinking very, very broad. So, where do you want to begin?
Well, you gave yourself a particular order. I hope that the last one of that one is your favorite.
It is.
We'll save that one for last. Then let's begin then with your first, the commitment to a linear timeline. When I first read that title, I wasn't expecting what you went with this. My thought was you were going to be like keeping time travel shenanigans out of the game.
Yeah, I don't really feel like that's appropriate. It's time travel is a weird thing where, yes, it's basically if I see it in any game that's not Zelda, I start rolling my eyes because it just complicates things. But time travel has been such a core part of Zelda stories basically forever. I guess technically starting with Ocarina of Time. And so it just feels wrong to say, no, Zelda can't have time travel. That's complicated. It's like, no, Zelda can have time travel. They just need to make sure it makes sense, kind of, in the end.
It never makes full sense. Time travel never makes full sense.
They can have their Song of Storms moment, right? They're allowed a paradox here and there. But as long as you can look at it and say, yeah, this was the past and this was the future, and put it together correctly, the time travel is fine to me. I don't have a problem with time travel. And that wasn't what I was talking about, right? What I'm annoyed with is the Zelda timeline as a concept. I don't have a problem with there being one. I like that the games connect. What I have a problem with is they won't just stick with one. Like, they keep... so they made this whole wild era, and then they kind of refused to let it connect to the rest of the games, and I was fine with that. Kind of a reboot, let's just start over. We can reference all those old games and just say, that was a bajillion years ago. Don't worry about all that. These are just fun references. And that's all fine. But then they made Echoes of Wisdom, and they went back to the old Zelda timeline. And stuck it in there right before Zelda 1. Which didn't need to happen, right? Yeah. Why don't you stick it in after Tears of the Kingdom? Why can't it be stuck before Breath of the Wild? Like, if you're going to make a new timeline and reboot it, commit to the timeline you rebooted and use it. But right now they don't seem to want to do that. It's like, why are we maintaining the old split timeline and the new one also? That I would like them to stop. Pick one or the other. Put the Breath of the Wild timeline on the old timeline if they want to. I don't care. Pick something.
I was okay at the beginning when they first announced the timeline back in 2016. I think it was 2016.
2011.
Really?
Revealed the timeline.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hyrule Historia.
My concept of time obviously is atrocious. Anywho, I was okay then, even though I had some raised eyebrows, as basically everybody did. I have since moved to the stance that the timeline was a mistake. And as great as it is to have games connect with each other, and I'm fine with games referencing each other and all that, the fact of the matter is that the Zelda developers clearly are not beholden to these timelines in any kind of literal sense. So why are they pretending like they are?
Exactly.
Because as you pointed out, every single time they add something, they have to suddenly say it belongs in here somehow, and yet the more you put in, the less it makes sense for any of it to actually be officially connected in some kind of timeline.
Right. And like, if you look at it very broadly, you can think about Hidemaru Fujibayashi is the director of Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom. There are a lot of Skyward Sword references in Breath of the Wild, right? Mm-hmm. It seems very clear that Skyward Sword happened if you're in Breath of the Wild. The same guy directed all three games, right? They're his Zelda games. And, it's fair to say, well, Ocarina of Time is important too. It's like the timeline kind of looks like Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time, Breath of the Wild. Those are the moments that matter. And yeah, when they put out the timeline, it was very weird to have that third branch on there. There were lots of fan theories with two branches. Lots of them. I don't even think you need two branches.
I would love to create a single one just for my own.
We had there were lots of them that worked just fine, because, like we said, they're not very beholden to it, and the time between games is very vague. So you can kind of just put 1,000 years here and there and whatever, and it just kind of works,
Mhm.
And they're still doing that. So it's very weird when they go back into the timeline they made in 2011 and they say, "Oh yeah, A Link Between Worlds is Triforce of the Gods 2. Okay, fine. And yeah, Triforce Heroes is the direct sequel to that." That's like, what? And oh yeah, and Echoes of Wisdom happens after that one. They're just throwing it in a spot to put it somewhere without adding to the end of any of them. and that's kind of the problem. They're just like, we need a place to put this because the fans expect a timeline now. Here's a spot where it doesn't totally break the entire timeline apart. And with Breath of the Wild, I think they saw it did break the whole timeline apart, so they didn't put it on the timeline. So my point was, people care a lot about the story of Zelda. I said earlier in the show, story is not the main reason I play video games. Like, I can appreciate a nice story in a game, but if the story of a game is atrocious, but I'm having a really good time just playing it, all is forgiven. I'm just going to play the game. If they're going to have these stories in Zelda games that continue to reference like this, like overarching these concepts of the Triforce and how the Triforce works, and that Ganon is revived or Demise's curse causes a new evil to appear, whatever. They're going to have these concepts. They need to stick with them and put something together that makes sense. And if they want to reboot it, that's fine. If they need to say, forget all the old stuff, do it. But they're going to have to stick with something for a while and stop like saying, well, this is in this one and this is in this one and these don't connect, and that they're just making it a confusing mess. And
I think the other thing is too, like, they spend too much time trying to fan service after the fact as well. Because you remember what they said, they don't make it Zelda games based on story, they make them based on what they want to do in the game first. They choose what mechanics or whatever direction they want to go with the game, then comes the story, and then after the story is where they try to put in everything else. The only problem with it being is that, if you notice with the last couple of games, Breath of the Wild especially, they try to do too much fan service for too many different Zelda games. So that's why you had Breath of the Wild where everybody was like, where does this place? Because you got Korok stuff from the Wind Waker timeline. You've got Twilight references. You've got Ocarina references, Skyward Sword references. It's all over the place. And then, everybody got excited, came up with all the theories. And instead of just letting them have that, then they come and tell us, oh, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are just at the very end of all the timelines together just by themselves. And it's like, well, why'd you do that? Like, why didn't you just, some things you could just let the fans come up with themselves and let them run with, And I agree with you too. They should just pick a timeline or a story and stick with it. Everything doesn't have to relate, especially if you have 3 timelines. Everything doesn't have to come behind Wind Waker or behind Ocarina and I used to get upset too when I first saw the timeline, because that third one where Link died and Ganon won. Like, really? like so that we could just have a million timelines if that's the case. You could have one where he wins and trips and falls, and come on, like, what are we doing?
Everything was going well until he stepped on that rock.
Or that Kuko was on the roof.
So when it comes to lore building, I do love a good immersive lore situation. I listen to a podcast about Lord of the Rings on a regular basis, and I'm learning and hearing about all these different things and aspects of Tolkien's world, everything from before men and elves to way beyond, actually somehow comes next to our time, and the way that everything interconnects with each other is really, really cool. I play Genshin Impact on a regular basis, and there is so much depth in all of the stories and the interconnectedness that they're trying to put together. But what ends up happening with all of those is that there begins to be problems, because the more you try to put details in a world, the more likely you're going to run into conflict. something that you said over here does not mesh with what was said over here. I'm currently having a little bit of existential crisis with Genshin right now because some of the things that they're doing doesn't make any sense with what they said 3 years ago.
That's funny.
It's one of the problems with like that any major franchise that actually does make a continuous story deals with eventually is you almost like need a team of experts in the story to check everything and make sure that you're not contradicting yourself, because especially with the number of people that make a game nowadays, one person can make something that they say is really, really cool now, but it turns out someone else made a thing that 5 years ago that makes that totally impossible. And then you have to try and reconcile it. And I know there are development teams that do those things, and even they will tell you that they slip up and they get it wrong sometimes, and they have to just say, sorry, it's a contradiction. We can't delete the game now, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fine. Stuff gets messed up, and Tolkien kind of has the advantage there of not being alive, and his story's kind of, it's done.
He doesn't have to add anything more. He doesn't, and even then, Tolkien retconned stuff.
He retconned stuff. Yeah.
He had to do that. The original Hobbit was a lot more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Until he realized, oh wait, I want this ring to be really, really important.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'm gonna say that what happened before was Bilbo lying about how he got the ring. And now this is the real reason he has the ring. And then that whole thing gets there. So it happens all the time. My point is, with those, you recognize the flaws that are in the details that you try and drum up there. Because Zelda is not built with those kinds of details in mind, not only are they going to run into more problems, they're even less willing to admit that there are problems in the first place.
Yeah, because they say it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
They don't, like, I don't want to say they don't care. There are people on the Zelda team that 100% care about the story, right, and care about the lore, but they're also, even comments from Aonuma make it seem like they're kind of scared of it. A very good example is Echoes of Wisdom, which I am spoiling now, a two-year-old game. But like the Triforce is in that game. Yeah. Notably, it is not in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom in any significant way. And they did actually do a really good job with the Triforce in Echoes of Wisdom. It works the way it was described in Ocarina of Time. Exactly. Like, it splits, it does everything it's supposed to do. They stuck to the lore, but Aonuma was like, no, we can't call it the Triforce. That comes with too many expectations. And so they called it the Prime Energy. And there's an interview about that. Oh my God, right? Yeah. So and it's weird. Like, they're scared of the thing they already made. Like, they don't want there to be expectations. And
yet, the times that they have followed up to those expectations, they have screwed them up.
So, yes, it's probably about time to move on to the next point. But yeah, I would like for them to pick something. I kind of said the same thing about Link and his personality. Pick something. I don't care if the next game I get to design Link from the ground up. Just pick something and either let me be Link, let me make Link me, or just design a character, make him talk, just make a character. And stop trying to sit here in the middle pretending.
I mean, look how long it took them to finally just call him Link.
It's true.
Like, it's like the Breath of the Wild series, like the first series, he's just actually Link. Like, not anything you want to name him. He's just Link. Okay, finally.
I love your second one because, I want to see a thriving Hyrule.
Oh my God, so badly. So badly.
Yeah, like, this is a Zelda thing, but also I see it in a lot of other games, right? Like, making games where everything is destroyed seems to be very common, you know? Yeah, and it makes sense from, like, wanting to tell a story. It's like, well, the big bad evil thing came and blew up everything. Yeah. And now you have the post-apocalyptic world or the ruins of an ancient civilization. And, like, everything is all just destroyed because now there's a mystery of why is it destroyed. It's like, it would be really nice to go back to seeing it before it was destroyed. Even if it gets destroyed later, let me see it before it got destroyed and explore it. You know?
Imagine a Hyrule where it starts out in its prime and then it does get blown up mid-game.
Like Ocarina of Time. That's the thing. Like, you saw the market in Ocarina of Time, and everyone's happy. People are like walking around, like, what? It's Sakan in Majora's Mask, but that character in Ocarina of Time is like skipping around the town, and there's the couple dancing, and like they're all just very carefree and just happy. And then at the end, and well, halfway through the game, not even halfway, everything is destroyed and it's full of redeads, right? And like, you actually do feel something the first time you do that. That's one of those moments you wish you could go back and do again when you're not 10 years old. Because
if anything, I would want them to lean into that even more, because after you get through Hyrule Castle Town, everything is actually relatively stable. It's like, especially Hyrule Field.
Yeah, except that like Hyrule Field is now full of ghosts, right?
Kind of, sort of. They sometimes pop up in specific locations.
It's technical limitations on the N64.
I understand, but I'm just saying, like, we need to see Kakariko people really take advantage of the fact that we have more to deal with to show what's going on.
It's fun if you like go look up YouTube videos that I know one. I can't think of who did it. One of the big Zelda guys on YouTube did a video about the characters that are missing, the people who are not there as Adult Link. And so, like, I know that there's a comment from I forget which developer. A developer made a comment that the little boy in the graveyard when you're a kid, he's not there as an adult, said, "Well, he wandered into the Lost Woods."
Oh, I heard about that. Yes.
And so, like, there's kind of a semi-canon reason for why he's not there. But like, what happened to the other people? You know, were they eaten by redeads? Like, what happened? And the game kind of just leaves that open to interpretation, which is cool. But seeing that on a broader scale with the technology of today would be cool. But I also just want to see Hyrule put together properly in general. Like, we saw it in Echoes of Wisdom, right? Hyrule's put together. We just haven't seen it in like full Breath of the Wild fidelity. And that's what I want to see. I think that, especially after seeing 2 games where we are living in the world where Calamity Ganon destroyed everything, I would like to see it all properly rebuilt. Not tents, not planks of wood everywhere saying, "Yay, we're rebuilding now." Like, I want to see that all happen 200 or 300 years ago, and we have rebuilt everything.
It's funny that you say that, because, like, back to the joke you said about the hardware or technical limitations. I'm wondering, is it that, or is it they're just intimidated? Because you technically see Hyrule Castle Town the way it looked in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Like, you see the actual castle built back up, the town.
Yep.
You can't go through all of it, but it's there. And then I was thinking back to like Twilight Princess. When you go to Hyrule Castle Town in that game, maybe they're scared because they don't want like a lot of interactions with things, but you had like, it felt like that whole town was bustling because you had characters just running around doing stuff that you couldn't talk to, or like they'd be on the side going to do something else, and it felt like there was a lot of people there, even though you only interacted with certain ones. So it was like, I felt like it was a way to make it feel more lively without having to have each character with a name, and it begins to be a bit much. So it's like, even like when Breath of the Wild was done, and like we were talking about the stuff we wanted in Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like, wouldn't this be cool if like the castle town's built up again, and it's more, because we kind of built the town back in Breath of the Wild with Terry Town. So I figured we'd probably be doing that on a bigger scale, and then like you said, we get it, and it's everything's still like being built back up, and it's like, whoa, what the heck, man? Like,
yeah, it's like, it is because it's only like a 5-year time skip or something. Like, it's not a really big time skip, but it's like, I can believe they didn't rebuild all of Castletown in a few years, but I would have liked to see something different. And now that we've run around the ruins of everything for almost 10 years, right, since Breath of the Wild, I would like to have a change of scenery. Let me see Hyrule again. Like, Twilight Princess was the last time we got that. Anything like it.
Yeah.
And it is like, the design, we'll say design philosophy, if that's the right word, of Twilight Princess is very different than what they're doing now, right? They clearly wanted a bustling city, but they weren't like making sure every person in town had a house
Yeah.
and that you could see them go to bed every night and wake up every morning and go about their business. Like the game didn't work that way, both
Yeah.
for technical reasons, but also for that's not the game they wanted to make reasons. Back then they were much more scared of players getting lost, and they needed to make it very friendly to your grandma. Like that was the Wii era, right? It needs to be
Yeah.
playable by everyone. So you can only make there can't be very many distractions. You got to make sure that the places you can go are the places you're supposed to go. And that's all. That's why the Bridge of Eldin has to be destroyed the moment you cross it, right? So that you don't get lost going backward. And now they've come to terms with that, and it's okay if we get lost. We just haven't had a chance to see Hyrule Castletown the same way again.
You have suddenly made me realize why Fi is as hand-holdy as she is.
Yes.
Because it was supposed to be accessible to everyone, which means you have to appeal to the lowest common denominator, which means you have to explain everything. Oh.
Does everyone have their laptop plugged in? Your battery might be low.
Oh, yeah.
We've been doing this a while now.
I don't trust my batteries.
Yeah, I feel like they should just take the cue they did from Twilight Princess Town. Bustling town, characters running everywhere, only certain characters you interact with. The rest of them just background characters like in other, Zelda games that they've done, so that like you don't feel too overwhelmed. You're not going to be able to talk to this dude who's running around that has no dialogue, and just do that. Everybody doesn't need a bed. You can make a house that looks like it holds people, and just go from there. I don't know.
You could hear me out if the focus of your story is scaled back a little bit and go something like a Majora's Mask route.
Oh my God, don't even get me
where suddenly
started
every character has a distinct purpose and reason for being there.
And see, there's a reason why lots of fans really love Majora's Mask's world and characters. It's like they all matter. Like there is not a single NPC in that game that doesn't have like a very distinct purpose, even if that purpose is just running the shop, right? It's like why they're there. They're gonna give you something, right? You're gonna buy an item from them. You're gonna play their mini game and get a cool quiver or whatever. And everybody else they're all on a schedule, and you can get to know all the people, and that's why people like that game, right? It's like I can talk all day about the flaws of Majora's Mask and how the dungeons are not among the best in the series, maybe with the exception of Stone Tower Temple. They're all kind of mediocre. Like, I don't think the main quest of Majora's Mask is very good.
No.
Like, compared to the other Zelda games. I just don't think it is. I think it's one of the weaker, like, main quests. But everything about the characters in the world is, like, the best in the series.
Exactly.
And that's why everybody loves it, is because we all got stuck into that world and had fun figuring out where Cafe was, Yeah.
I wish also too, I feel like, because how Noma talks about it, like he feels like that was a failure of a Zelda game in a way, and they were crushed for time and this and the third, but they took what they had and made it work. And like you said, like you cared about every character. You had a schedule for when they do things. You'd be able to track them with the Bomber's Notebook. You got involved in everybody's lives, and because of that, like inclusion, like it made that game feel so much more alive. That's why, like, I never, personally, like I feel like it's one of the best Zelda games ever made. And if that was their crunch time and they did the best, like, why can't we just take what we learned from that and apply it to a newer Zelda game? You know what I mean? Like, they kind of do it somewhat in the Breath of the Wild series with like certain things and even Tears of the Kingdom, but like we need more of that. You know what I mean?
Right. The characters in the Wild era, they have schedules, right? You can follow some random NPC around.
Yeah.
You will see them go to bed every night and leave in the morning. And if it rains, they're going to run for cover.
Yeah.
And like they have schedules and they have activities they do, but most of them don't have any purpose beyond that.
Exactly.
They're just there. And that's fine for some characters, but you'd argue that there's not enough characters that have more to them.
Exactly.
Even the characters that give you a side quest, a lot of those side quests are just, can you bring me 5 mushrooms?
And half the time you have them already. Like, oh, here, quest done.
And so like that, but I see like DNA from Majora's Mask in that idea that the characters all like have real lives, even if some of those lives are kind of sad. And like we wake up every morning, we walk outside the stable, we sit at a fire all day, and then we go back to bed inside the stable.
It could be worse. They could be actively getting invaded by more monsters,
Well, that's the thing. Like, one of my favorite quests is the cow, protecting the cows in Majora's Mask. I love that whole thing. And if you remember in Tears of the Kingdom, it kind of gave like a slight throwback to that when he had to protect the pumpkins. And I'm like, why can't we get more of that stuff? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man.
Making video games is hard.
I guess.
Making video games is hard. I will never advocate for less development time.
Yeah, same. If that's what they need.
They're put under more than enough stress as it is. That being said, that level of creativity that can be brewed when you have these specific constraints that you have put on yourself. Maybe it's not a time constraint, but maybe it's okay, this is what we want to have here. What are we going to do with this thing that we want to have? And so if you design a problem, a challenge, a quest in a thriving Hyrule, how does that affect your main character's interaction with the world? How are the people in there going to behave, and how are you going to interact with them there? It is a fabulous direction that I agree is high time they revisit. I am dying for them to revisit Two Parallel Worlds.
Yes, I need always.
That is the funnest thing.
I was going to say, let me set the stage here, because I mentioned that I originally just had one idea I was going to write like a huge article about. This is the idea that I had. I want you to imagine that you're playing Tears of the Kingdom, okay? Playing Tears of the Kingdom, and instead of Ascend, you have, like, say, an ability called Transition. It works the same way, right? Wherever you are standing, you then hit the button, and it transitions you to a completely alternate world just through, like, a quick little load screen, where Link is in a weird blue map. And that the game is smart enough to figure out that, well, you were over here, but over here in the same exact coordinates, there's actually a crate. So you need to, not be inside the crate. You're going to have to be on top of the crate. So you kind of combine Ascend and traversing two worlds a bit, because you need the game to be smart enough to know to not stick you in the middle of a wall, right? Which is what Ascend does, right? Ascend is very good at that. And it's really fun if you play with Ascend, where you can figure out that you can, like, ascend not just through the roof of a cave, but also through the platform above that with a box on top or whatever, right? Like, you end up in these weird situations where you're like, oh, weird, I landed on top of this boat, whatever. And that's what I want to see, because... So going to the idea here was that A Link to the Past has a light world and a dark world, where you can transition not freely. You can transition from the dark world to the light world using an item, the mirror, and the game is not smart at all, right? If you try to transition somewhere and there is a wall, it just kicks you back to where you were. Ocarina of Time, after that, came along and gave us two worlds, but they completely negated the transitioning by saying, no, you can only switch in one room. And that room is basically identical in both worlds. Yeah. So, minus the lighting, I suppose. But, like, it's different. It's the same in both worlds, so they don't have to worry about the logic of making sure that you can get from one place to another. And then Oracle of Ages does what A Link to the Past does, but actually does let you go freely between the two by the end of the game. But is also still not smart, and if you end up in a wall, it will just kick you back to where you were. They haven't really done it since. They did A Link Between Worlds, where it's more similar to Ocarina of Time, but it's like, okay, there's a couple dozen points where you can transition from one to another, but they are literally inside the walls, so there is never any chance that you will be in a wall, because you're going to go through the wall and pop out the other side. Like, they have always worked around the technical limitation of transitioning between the worlds. But I saw Ascend in Tears of the Kingdom and thought, this is them testing how they can move Link between objects and calculate coordinates. And I actually think this is like actually a likely idea. I think they could actually do this, where we have two real worlds and you transition through them seamlessly, no kicking you back to the previous world. Like maybe there's like Ascend has the red circle if you just can't do it. Maybe there's that. I would even argue they should logic their way around that and just say, well, that spot doesn't work, but if we go up a little higher or to the left, like get you to the closest coordinate that works. Because I see the possibility for things like playing with elevation, right? Tears of the Kingdom. I know I'm talking a lot now. This is, like I said, the idea that excites me the most.
I like this.
The elevation in Tears of the Kingdom, you have where you can look at the coordinates on your map, right? You can go down to the depths and see how far deep you are, and go up in the sky, see how high you are. Imagine if you were actually up high, like you're just in the sky, and you can transition and find yourself in a cave inside a mountain that has no other entrance.
That's actually cool.
Like that's the like ideas that I'm working with, of like you can have two worlds that are very different, not a light and dark world where they're kind of the same, but a couple things have moved around and it's a different tile set that's darker. It like actually two completely different worlds that you call them planets if you want. You got one mountainous planet and one planet that's all plains, and you've got to figure out how to traverse the mountains while accessing it from the world of the plains instead, right? That's what I want to see. I want that ability where I can just hit a button. And I actually don't think it's a crazy idea after Ascend is in the game. Ascend, you think about Ascend and Fuse and like the Ultra Hand and all the technology it took to make all of that work. I don't think I'm asking for much.
You mentioned it before, how the duality of worlds has been running for so long, and it goes back to the original. The idea of an overworld and an underworld, as it were, has been in Zelda's DNA from the very beginning. And the best versions of it are the ones where you can see an effect in one has an effect in another. When Tears of the Kingdom really got going, I saw two different ways in which that could have been implemented. Either you go with an Aegis format in which things that Zelda is doing has an effect on Link's situation, or you have something where the depths actually mean something. There's actually something down there that has something of significance that is directly connected to your mission. It is so much better when these worlds are connected and reflect each other in some kind of way, as opposed to just being this and this.
Well, I mean, I guess technically the depths, can show you where, shrines are in the top.
That's a convenient feature. That's not a purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I love the idea that they, of the depths and what they did. I just, like you said, I wish they did more with it, but maybe they just either ran out of time or just didn't really know what to do other than that. I don't know, but I like Joshua's idea a lot. I wish they could implement something like that. I don't see why they can't. But then again, that's Nintendo. Will they do it? This is also the same company who, as much as I love Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, Link still has the same 5-hit combo. Both games. Didn't even give it a variation or let them learn some new sword technique. Just exactly the same combat.
Do I need to remind you how long ago it was where we didn't have any sword combo?
No.
At all?
No, but also
Skyward Sword, literally the one previous to those, where it's just literally and
But Ocarina of Time has one.
Yeah, Ocarina of Time sword combo.
But I'm saying it's still more of a variation than the just literally just tap Y, the same 5-hit combo. And, at least I could swing horizontally this way or, something different. Why couldn't we just get something different? Like, it took 6 years. He fights exactly the same way.
Because it's not a combat-focused game.
Wind Waker fought better.
Wind Waker's combat is excellent. I love
excellent.
that system.
And it's not even that fleshed out, and it's excellent. Come on.
No, I think it's clear that most of their time on Tears of the Kingdom went into bug fixing the technical aspects around Ultra Hand, Fuse, and Ascend. Probably mostly the former. Like, being able to stick literally anything together and not have the whole game break is a massive technical feat. Fuse also, where you can actually just like stick items together and create other items out of like anything in the entire game, no matter how pointless. Like, this is them just like flexing their physics engine, flexing like what can we actually do in this world. And so the rest of it where they're like, that part just works already, we're not going to change that. Because if you think about from a development standpoint, if they're going to change the combo, right? If they're going to change how the combat works, well, now they have to change how the combat works and make sure it works with every single one of the Fuse combinations. On top of that a crate stick doesn't break the kit combo.
Okay, even this, right? How cool would it have been to have Link fighting, and during like fighting, maybe a slow-mo, and he takes Ultra Hand and like moves the bad guy, or something. Like, we could have just a little bit. Like, he didn't have to fight like Hyrule Warriors Link. Okay, I get it.
You know not of which you ask, sir. To stop mid-combat and move somebody, that's, oh my gosh, the amount of...
It's all right. I don't think either of us are asking for too much.
In 6 years, Link, you fought... Hey, Link, have you advanced? No, I pretty much do the same thing. Okay.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Look, he lost his arm, okay? His fighting skills, went backward because of that.
What is this, Samus?
He had learned how to fight with both hands, and then he lost one of them.
Jeez, man. I mean, how cool would it have been to just see him just slightly force push somebody? You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like,
so yes, I like those ideas also. Going back to what Connor said, kind of gave me an idea about the world transitioning, and like you talked about how changing one world changes the other. Which I'm not sure I get to touch on in the article. Like, that was like an important idea, but I was trying not to keep the article super long. But you talked about Tears of the Kingdom, and it's the kind of thing like, imagine if the world did not reflect the events, like reflect the changes until you found the memory.
That would have been cool.
It's almost like it's some kind of weird psychic link where the changes in the world can't happen unless Link sees what Zelda had done, and now the world is different because of what Zelda did.
I mean, that would have been a cool concept, because like even in like one of the ending, and I don't mean to cut you off, but like even in one of the endings with the tears, when you get done, like there's that like field of
Silent Princess.
The Silent Princess.
Yeah, Silent Princesses. So like I feel like that would have worked well, like you said.
Yeah. And see, that's a cool thing they could have done without even needing to transition you between the worlds. It's just changing the world based on something an action you took, like you found something and now the world is different. Yeah, like I am talking more like, let us see Raru's Hyrule and also, we'll call it Daphnis's Hyrule. Yeah. Let you go between the two seamlessly rather than needing to throw Zelda back into it, just so that you can get a little bit of glimpse of it. And then you have to make a Hyrule Warriors game so that we can see another little glimpse of it.
Yeah. I mean, I always thought we were going to get, like, you play as Link in this future, and in the past you play as Zelda, at least during the parts that she needs to do.
That would have been so good.
That would have been great.
It's that thing where they seem to just be, like, almost doing it. Like, they're on the record saying that was the plan with Skyward Sword at one point. That you would get to play Zelda's part in the story.
And all we got was the splash cutscenes. And
and it's like, we see what's left of it at the end in the credits. You can see screenshots of Zelda doing it. And it's like, man, someone was playtesting the part of the game where you got to play as Zelda, and the only screenshots that are left of that are what ended up in the credits. Yeah.
Some people are so lucky.
So, those are my big ideas. Obviously, I'm the most excited about the last one.
I like all of them, to be honest. I'm right there with you, Josh.
Yeah, I don't think I'm asking for too much. I don't think Jason's asking for too much by having, like, one extra hit in the combo.
Yeah, just one.
One whole hit.
At least change the way he revolves a little bit.
Well, regardless of what they decide to proceed with next, we shall await with bated breath and look forward to experiencing, analyzing, and complaining that they did not get what we wanted right, as everything is brought out. Oh, gosh. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. Josh, Jason, great to have you both here.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks to all of our contributors, our columnists, our writers, our artists for this month, excuse me. I'm not that ambitious. A happy 40th anniversary to The Legend of Zelda and to all of you.
Happy 40th.
Happy 40th to Zelda. Can I add one more note here?
Of course.
I almost interjected at the beginning, and I thought, it's better to wait till the end. Make everyone listen to the podcast first. So we're not just celebrating the 40th anniversary of Zelda this month. I think Connor knows this, but Jason probably doesn't. The day before the Zelda anniversary is also Zelda Universe's 25th anniversary. So we've got a double celebration happening. I suspect this podcast is going to come out a little bit before we actually announce the anniversary or have any real plans for how to celebrate or anything. But we will be celebrating like the whole year, trying to do some kind of fun thing. And so I hope that you'll all continue to read Zelda Universe and listen to this podcast and see whatever we've got going on YouTube this year. We have lots and lots of volunteers who make really awesome things across all our teams all the time. It is astounding that we have done this for 25 years. It's kind of actually insane.
It's crazy.
Never imagined as a teenager that we would still be playing with Zelda websites and videos and all of this 25 years later.
Awesome.
It is insane. So thanks to everybody who contributes, but also all of you who listen and read and comment on everything on social media. This entire community is incredible.
Yes, very much.
Thank you all so very much. We try and do this podcast once a month, and we've been doing pretty well thus far for over a year now. So grateful to have everybody here listening and participating. Happy anniversary to all of you. And we will see you next time on the Zelda Universe Podcast.